Hello everybody, it's Laura Morley here and I'm the parenting coach here at Lulu, and I'm very, very happy to welcome Jenna today, who's going to be chatting with us about all things toilet training kids who have autism or sensory processing issues. And I know as parents that this can be something that a lot of us find really challenging, just to know, whether we're doing the right thing or, if there's other things that we can try just to support our kids. So Jenna, welcome. It's so lovely to see you. And what would be really cool is if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into helping families with behaviour and toilet training.
Thanks, Laura. It's great to be here. So as you said, my name is Jenna. I'm from Be Change Behavioural Services. I'm the director at Be Change, and we provide lots of different behavioural services for children and young people with developmental delays or intellectual disabilities or just sometimes challenging behaviour. And one of the services that we provide is around toilet training. Many of the families that come to Be Change find that toilet training is difficult with their children. It doesn't go as smoothly as they may have anticipated, or they may have attempted some toilet training before without success. So they've come to us for some help in that area. We provide toilet training services for young children, 3-4-year-olds, but right up until adults who may have been in nappies for some time.
Great. And what are some of the things that when parents come to you that you feel like, that they should know either before they start toilet training or during the process of toilet training their child who has, say, sensory processing issues or autism?
So I think that the first thing that we want parents to understand and to recognise is that if their child has additional needs such as autism or a sensory processing disorder, that toilet training may require some additional assistance, so some outside support, or it may take a little bit longer than they anticipated, and it requires a lot of consistency. So we really want the expectations to be set right from the beginning, that toilet training can have its challenges, but to also feel encouraged that there's a lot of great research out there that supports some toilet training interventions with individuals just like their child, so they can feel supported and encouraged by that fact as well.
You know what I really love about that is you feel like there's hope, because sometimes when you feel like you've been toilet training for a while and you feel like you hit a dead end, that you think, my goodness, what am I to do next and how am I going to make this happen, that you just feel like there's hope that actually there are things that are proven that will work, as long as you kind of are working with the child as an individual, there is something that is going to be able to support and help them. So I guess what I'd love to know is, before parents start encouraging their children out of daytime nappies, what are some of the things that you think they need to really focus on in order to set their kids up for success?
So I think one of the first things is to check that the children have the prerequisite behaviours for toilet training. And sometimes those are just things like, are they able to pull their pants up and down? Because that's a really important step of toilet training around independence. Do they have some signs that they're recognising some of the feelings around toileting? So are they asking for their nappy to be changed or indicating that they're wet or have done a bowel motion? Some of those things can be really encouraging for and a good sign to think that the child is ready for toilet training. The other part is are there some clear patterns in their day? So do they usually pass a bowel motion at a regular time, or do they indicate in some way that they're going to be passing a bowel motion? So those can be some things that can be very helpful prerequisites for toilet training. So that would be the first thing to identify and to start perhaps working on as well around those self-help skills. Washing hands as well is an important one. And then the other probably one would be, can they access the toilet? So can they get themselves up onto a little step and put themselves on the toilet independently? So those would be some prerequisites to definitely look out for or to start working on and encouraging before you even start toilet training.
I love that, because I encourage that with a lot of my clients, because otherwise you find that there are so many learning steps that have to happen before actually doing a wee on the toilet has to happen, right?
Yes.
You feel like if you can try and do those outside of the context of toilet training, that like once you hit toilet training, they can already do half the things that are required, and therefore you're already getting success before you've even started introducing the idea of, having to wee or poo on the toilet.
Yes, absolutely. No, you want to make it as easy as possible to begin with. So ticking all of those things off before absolutely makes sense.
Fantastic. So if a child starts toilet training and they start to become really, really anxious about, sitting on the toilet, and obviously all the feelings that go with, actually even sitting on the seat, what are some things that we can do to try and reduce our kids' anxieties around experiencing that?
So I think a really important thing, even if your child doesn't have any anxiety around the toilet, is to initially make that place really fun. Have a party in the toilet. Set the place up to have a lot of the child's favourite things in there. It's getting them to realise that the toilet or the bathroom is a place that the good things happen. So that can often be a really good place to start, is setting up the environment so that it's encouraging for your child to even enter in and be in that place. And also start small and then grow big. So if your child is truly anxious about sitting on the toilet to begin with, just start with them sitting on for a split second and then hopping off, and then build that up slowly over time. But you'll find that once children have had some success and connected that the toilet is not such a scary place, or the toilet's not such a scary place to be on, then they will learn quite quickly that it's not so bad, and we will see that anxiety will drop off. Sometimes it's just anxiety around the unknown, and anxiety around not really understanding the purpose yet. So definitely making it fun. Start small, with a few seconds on the toilet and then hopping off, and lots of practice, lots of repetition, just so that they're realizing. And then another way that you can make the toilet a more inviting place is by using a lot of modeling. So either modeling to your child sitting on the toilet, or showing videos. So a lot of our children really love watching things on TV or their iPads or mobile phone. So use that to hook them into seeing that the toilet's not such a bad place. So you could show them fun and quirky videos of people sitting on a toilet, and even potentially them or a sibling or a peer sitting on the toilet as well. So that could be some really good, easy things that you could do just to start, even before you begin toilet training.
And if I have a child that I'm toilet training and they're, somewhere between 2 and 4, and they're still in kind of the early childhood environment, what things do I need to discuss with my early childhood team that will be able to support my child and making sure that they're really effective?
Well, I think that it's also really important to start these things at home first, if you have a child with additional needs. That way you can create a real consistency before transitioning to that environment, like an early childhood setting. So I think first making sure that you've established some great routines at home, then inviting the early childhood centre to meet with you, or to have a small discussion around how you're going to now transition or transfer these great new habits to that environment. So first of all, having them on board, and then helping them to keep things as consistent as possible. So making sure that it looks and feels the same as it did at home. So whatever routines you've established at home, making sure that the same thing is happening in your early childhood setting. And that may also be using things like additional rewards or reinforcers that they may have to provide, which they may not for other children in that setting. So we know that the children that we're helping often require a little bit more motivation when it comes to toilet training than maybe they're typically developing peers. So I think that having an early childhood centre who's able to help you with that and able to transfer that to their setting by using the same tools and strategies as you are at home.
Fantastic. And when it comes to getting children to wipe, obviously for some of them it's going to be a skill that they need to practice. So how do you recommend that we start introducing that? Is it better to get the adults initially to wipe them right from the start? Or do you recommend that the kids start wiping themselves? So what do you recommend around wiping?
I think that starting earlier is always better. So even if you think your child's not quite ready, getting them to participate in some way in the wiping process will help with later on transferring it to them being the person to do the wiping. So perhaps maybe you just start with them you doing maybe the first wipe and then doing the second or something like that. It may even require you to sort of guide their hand a little bit, so getting their hand and helping with them with that process. So I certainly think starting that pretty much right from the beginning, if possible, and having your child participate always in that process, and then slowly fading yourself out as soon as possible so that you can create independence. If your child does have or does find that process aversive in any way, or they don't like it, it's a bit icky, and it doesn't really suit them, then practice some of these things outside of the context of toilet training first. So you might teach them to wipe something off a bench, some things that feel or look a little bit the same, like peanut butter maybe, just wiping that off something with some toilet paper or with a baby wipe. And that way they're starting to learn that that's actually not so bad and not so scary, and it's outside of the context of toilet training. Then you can slowly bring that back into the context of toilet training once they're feeling more comfortable with that process.
I love that, because the thing is that you don't want them freaking out halfway through and splattering poo all around the bathroom.
No.
It's your worst nightmare as a parent to think it's all going to just go haywire, and that your child's going to be having these really negative experiences early on, and so it drives this anxiety and this feeling from both the child and the parent that it's going to be a really negative experience. So I guess using something like peanut butter means that if they do kind of freak out a little bit, you're not going to be so worried, are you?
That's right.
Yeah, and not think
absolutely
traumatized for life or something that Yeah.
Absolutely, peanut butter is much easier to clean up.
Okay, so if parents are wanting to have a little bit of extra support, I know that I've talked to lots of families that have said that they've tried to go through the usual channels that they do with, say, their paediatrician or through the public health system, and just find that they haven't been able to find necessarily that one person that they've really been able to go to that's been able to really sit down and make a plan with them to be able to help. And obviously through what I do at Lulu with, parent coaching and stuff like that, I can definitely work with the kids who have, maybe a mild, sensory processing or autistic bent. But I know that you kind of provide that next level of support and care. So if a parent is thinking about how they can access either, support through the public or through you, how would they go about doing that?
So it's unfortunate to say, but the public system has very limited support for toilet training with individuals who have autism or other developmental or intellectual disability. So that is very disappointing. There is some families that are accessing individualised funding through their NASC, and so they may be able to use that money to access our services, for example. Or they may want to use their own funds to use someone like us. So that be change. If you want to have a discussion with us, that's really the first step, is to contact us, and we can tell you a little bit about our services and what we do provide when it comes to toilet training and how we can support you. But really, it happens in two ways. We can either provide you with some parent coaching, a little bit like what you do, and work with a family to support them in the process, or we can actually come in and do the toilet training intervention hands-on ourselves, or a little bit in between. So it's really up to the family and what their goals are around the toilet training process. Maybe perhaps some of the things that they've tried in the past might influence the types of services that we might recommend, and the age of the child, and perhaps some of the difficulties that they're having around toilet training. But absolutely, they can contact us at any time to discuss our services and how we might help them. But I definitely recommend that families have a little bit of a look at individualised funding and how they might be able to use that money to support them in this process.
So do you think they should try and go full-time nappy-free during the day by themselves, or is it better to get a plan first and then go and start? So should they kind of start first and put their toe in the water and give it a go before they come and see you, or is it better to kind of get a plan first?
I think I definitely would encourage families to give it a go first, because I think that they might be surprised at how quickly their child does pick up toilet training. And I definitely want to encourage families to not spend money if they don't have to. And so I think give it a go, but also don't get frustrated through that process. If you feel like it's not successful to begin with, then quickly seek help, because it's better to get onto those sorts of things earlier rather than later. If you have attempted toilet training and it doesn't quite work the way that you think it should or as quickly, do stop and seek some extra support and some extra help, because you may end up creating some bigger and more difficult problems in that process as well. So it's sort of, I want families to feel encouraged to try, and I certainly don't want them to spend money that they don't need to, getting extra support, but don't leave it for too long. If you feel like it's not working, or it's not effective, or your child is finding it really difficult and you're feeling stressed out, then absolutely seek some extra support, so that you can get onto it sooner rather than later.
One of the things that I find with kids who have these kinds of things is that you have to really choose the right equipment as well. Yes. And it's very easy to just go down to your local hardware store or, big store somewhere and go and buy stuff. And then you suddenly realize that actually you've got something that's not really working for you equipment wise. And I think what I do with a lot of my clients is talk about trying to set your children up for success in those early stages.
Yes.
And buying the right stuff for them is actually quite important too. Like, for example, if you don't have a step stool that's the right height, or you have, the toilet seats that you get that kind of end up sliding around the top of the toilet. And as soon as your sensory processing child sits on that, they freak out because, not only is it some kind of change, but it's something that feels hard or cold, or it slides around and it feels uncomfortable. So I think also putting a bit of time into making sure that you've got the equipment right. Actually makes them feel so much more comfortable, and therefore when they're relaxed, obviously they're going to release wheeze and poos way better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there's like the psychological, but there's also the practical and the physical side of things that kind of come in together to be able to set that up for success. See, when I'm buying stuff for Lulu, I am so picky. I actually don't sell that many seats because I find so many of them don't work that I'm like, well, what's the point, And you go to a shop and you go, oh yeah, I've bought this. It was like $10 or something. And then you get it home and realize it doesn't even fit your toilet or, whatever. So I think there's a little bit of planning that goes involved in doing that as well, and choosing the undies that are going to be right, and those little things that can just really set the trajectory of how toilet training is going to go for a child.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree. I think to feel planned, to not just dive into it without really thinking through these things. Definitely do your research as a parent. Have a look around at what types of equipment is available and what would be suited for your child. And I think those sorts of things can absolutely set everybody up for a trajectory of success. And it is a good way to start. So I think dip your toe in, but with a plan. Don't fear, don't completely just dive in and hope that it all works out, because that probably won't end that well. And sometimes those simple little things like a good quality seat and a step that is the right height can make all of the difference for your child. Mm-hmm. So definitely something to be aware of and mindful of, and also to dedicate time as well. I think it's not just equipment and is an important part of it, but also to make sure that if you are going to dip your toe in, put aside the whole weekend or 3 or 4 days, pick a time that you're not going to be distracted or have other things going on that you have to think about. Maybe make sure you've got a couple of freezer meals ready to go, because it's going to be a busy couple of days, those first few days. So you don't want to feel like you're trying to manage too many things as well. So that can also set you up as a parent for success.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time. I found this a really interesting conversation, and I know that I geek out on these kinds of things because
me too.
I love our parents. But actually, some of the things that you've said have really given parents hope that actually, they can give it a go themselves and be empowered to do that, because obviously they're the expert in their child, aren't they? I mean, you with them all the time, and just having the confidence to know that, that there's also a backup plan there, that if they're feeling overwhelmed or they're feeling like, they might need to tweak some things just to, see some change with their child, that there's the support there available. And I think, as parents, to have that reassurance makes such a huge difference. So thank you so much for your time. And if you found this really useful, then do leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. I will also leave on the blog for this video, I'll leave the contact details of how you can find Jenna if you want to access her services as well. So thanks so much, Jenna.
Thank you.